Hello, it's Matthew David, and we are live. So I have no idea who's going to show up tonight, and that's okay because this will be pre-record or this will be recorded, and I'll be able to play it back. And the transmission is going to be about the temptation of discouragement and failure, and what to do about that because it's something that we're all going to go through. So if you are joining me, just go ahead and say hello so I know you're here. Hello, Jamakwa, Chiri. Good to have you guys. Hey. So I want to cover something powerful for you guys. Craig, welcome. Good to see you guys. And again, we're talking about the temptation of discouragement because it is a temptation. So here's what I got to tell you guys. When you guys are on the precipice of a breakthrough, you're pushing through to the next level. In other words, when you've decided, when you've made a decision, that's all it takes. When you make a decision, all power in the universe flows through your decision as a divine being. You are a divine being. I invite you to look at the scripture, John 4, verse 24, where it says God is spirit. Okay? Now, pay attention to this. Spirit. God is spirit. And you are created in the image and likeness of God, which means you are also spirit. Now, here's an interesting phenomenon I want you to go ahead and look at. In which capacity of life do people receive death sentences? For instance, where do you have to be in order to receive a death sentence? You have to be in a prison, right? Well, when you were born into this world through the five senses, you were immediately given a death sentence because according to your five senses, that's what you have to look forward to someday. You're going to die. So in the world of fiction, through the five senses, we're always being tempted with discouragement, doubt, fear, suffering, and even death. And truthfully, all of these things stem from the original sin, which is the ego mind that took an identity of its own and said, I am finite. Out of the infinite, it took an identity and said, I am finite. So here comes this birth, all right? And it's a finite you with a birth date and your death sentence that you were immediately given the minute you were born. Or at least that's what you believed. Now, you remember you watched the movie The Matrix. We just watched it the other night and we went through it again. And Morpheus looks at Neo and he says, do you believe that that's air you're breathing? Now, that's just a message, an electrical impulse from your so-called brain to your five senses. It's from your mind, from your earthly mind. And you believe all this is real when it's actually a dream. It's always been a dream. It's the atom dream of consciousness. You never left heaven. You are an eternal spiritual being in the kingdom of heaven. You are in the image and likeness of God. You've never had a human existence. It's all illusion. So what do you do when you're tempted with fear, doubt, discouragement, and loss? Well, whenever you decide to change your life and you make a decision, your ego mind is going to start acting up. And remember, it's all a projection of consciousness, as within, so without. It's all frequency, it's all vibration. And the whole journey of life is to move from fear into faith. If you believe in fear, you lose the game of life. If you believe in faith, you win the game of life. That's how the whole game is rigged. That's how it's set up. And who has to make the decision? You do. So When you say, I'm going to step up, I'm going to live at a higher capacity, I'm going to demonstrate more faith in goodness. That's what you're saying. Every time you are saying, I'm going to get more out of life, you are saying, I believe in goodness more than I believe in bad stuff. You're tipping the scales a little more. I believe more in good than I believe in bad at this point. Now the ego says, don't rock the boat because I keep status quo. I need to keep you down. I need to keep you under my foot. I need to keep you controlled through fear. Fear is Satan. Satan and fear are interchangeable, okay? So when they say Satan's got his hooks in you or Satan has bound you, that means you are trapped in fear. And if you're experiencing a stuck position or a lack or a limitation or some suffering, it means you are expressing a pocket of fear from your inner kingdom to your outer projection. And again, I'm going to make a change in my life. I'm going to the next level. The ego says, like hell you are. And it starts to, boom, create something in your life. Perfect example. This past week, I made that decision, and one of my new companies is about to launch, and I crashed my truck and my house flooded. Now, you could say that external circumstance has nothing to do with, I didn't create that. Those are external things, right? Maybe I crashed the truck, but the house flooding, that's not my problem, right? No. You see, you create everything that happens in your external hologram. And I've been through this process so many times. I'll go back even further than that. When I was going from 6 figures to 7 figures, I ended up putting myself in the hospital and going through all sorts of problems, all sorts of chaos, all sorts of turbulence. My whole life went to hell because warfare always surrounds the birth of a miracle, and crisis always occurs at every season of major transformation and change in your life. So when this happened, instead of saying, oh, wow, look at that, my truck's got to be fixed and the basement's flooded, I look at it with a new set of eyes and I say, wow, look what the ego is doing. The ego is tripping out. You know why? Because I own it. Because I know exactly what to do. I know exactly how to push through this. I have the tools to keep my vibration up. And here's the determining factor. Whatever you speak is what you create. So when something happens, you have a decision to make. It's either something that you perceive as negative and you tip the scales back where negative's taking over again, or you decide to put your faith over here and tip the scales up and say, no, this is just phenomenon. It means nothing. Only the good is true. And I know that I'm forever in the blessing because I could never be outside of God's existence because that's an impossibility. Omnipresence means it's the only presence. It's the only power. It's the only truth. So now let's talk about the appearance of a financial lack. What do you do if you've stepped into faith? Maybe you're even tithing and you say, my God, I'm tithing. What the hell's going on? How did I get an overdraft? How did I get screwed over here? How did this happen? How did, right? Here's the thing. You have to look at where your faith is, because just because if you send a tithe but you mentally hold on to it, if you're still mentally holding on to it with some hidden lingering fear, that's not a true tithe, because you can only give to yourself. You need to know that first. Omnipresence means there's only one presence, which means you can never outgive God. You can never give to anything other than yourself. Here's how it works. Okay, stay with me. This is very important. If you are in God's presence at all times, never outside of it, then God is knowing nothing about this lack that's appearing to your 5 senses, because God never created it. And if God never created it, then you have no business fearing it when it shows up, because God hasn't given you a spirit of fear, but of peace, love, and a sound mind. You see, there's the choice again. You have to make a choice, but you have to validate it with your mouth. You have to say, money flows freely and easily to me now. Only the good is true. I demand my increase from the universe. I live under the covenant. I am perpetually blessed, and I am forever protected, promoted, and provided for by the Most High. And none of this evil, none of this 5 cents report can do anything to stand in the way of that. You see, I don't believe the false appearances that show up. And then what happens is my vibration shifts. I come back into a place of peace. Peace, be still, and know that I am God. When you are in a position of peace, even Bashar says, it's not your circumstances that matter, it's your state of being that matters. So when your state of being goes to the place of peace, you are in the presence of the present, and you are at one with God, because that's God's nature, is peace. So be in the peace no matter what shows up, and make a decision in that moment so all power can flow through that decision. So when your ego mind comes in and it projects through fear, doubt, uncertainty, and all of its tricks, it has this little booby traps it throws out there, and they're all rooted in fear, a fear made expressed. When you see an overdraft, if you're afraid of it, if you feel afraid of what you see in front of you, then you get to repeat that experience until you let go of that fear. Most self-made millionaires have one thing in common. They've been through bankruptcy at least one time. They've gone through the death of their financial loss, and they have no fear of it. Because when you have no fear of losing, you can gain. So immediately you make it okay to fail, and you've already made it okay to succeed. And that's the whole misconception around failure, is everybody believes that they have to be right. I got to be right. I can't make a mistake. I got to be right. Well, I call that being completely wrong, because what you've done is you have just disconnected yourself from your actual power, because your power is in your vulnerability and your humility. Your power is not in arrogance, because arrogance is pointing your arrow through the gnosis and becoming a worker ant. And arrogance is disobedience to God, because faith is the only thing that pleases God. So when you step into vulnerability and you allow yourself to be supported by God, leaning not on your own understanding, what'll happen is the bubble will pop, the picture will burst, and all sufficiency will come to meet you. And your consciousness did that. You did that. You allowed it to happen. See, watch this. You allow everything to happen. So you have to allow God to work for you. You have to allow it. Your human might, like your muscles are nothing. Your muscles mean nothing. Just like Morpheus says in the movie Matrix, he goes, do you believe that me being stronger and faster than you in this place has anything to do with my muscles? You see, it's an illusion. And so is reality. Reality is an illusion. So when I broke through, and every time I get tempted with lack and limitation, I know the first step is to get to a place of peace. How do I get there? By making it completely okay to fail. Completely. That's leaning not on my own understanding. That's trusting. That's allowing right there. Here's how I do it mentally, so you can get a picture of this. Now, imagine if you're on a 5-foot-high building and you fall. That might hurt, right? But imagine you're up on a 25-story building and you fall. Probably hurt more. Well, guess what? If you're on a 5-foot building, and let's say you planted a faith seed, and all of a sudden you see the appearance of lack, if you're afraid of that fall, do you think your Father, your spiritual source, your God, is going to endow you with 100 times the amount of prosperity for you to do the same action and to have that fear and to cause yourself a heart attack? If you're afraid of that fall, then how are you going to handle being up this high with the perspective of losing it all? You see, that is how it really works in real life. I have, I tell everybody this, my tithes are in the 6 figures, okay? I tithe way more than 10%. I don't care about the physical stuff. I know that when I come to the world serving and I come from love and I act as God would be, acting from love, from inspiration, from serving others, asking how can I serve more effectively, I'll always be prospered, always, because I'm coming from the nature of God. And so when I come from that place, I don't have any fear. If I'm tempted by fear or failure, I remember that I'm not even here. This is a fiction. I am here as God to be the servant, to be in alignment with God. So I change the game. You see, if I come from Matthew David and I say, oh boy, I need to be, look at my Lamborghini, right? Here's my Lamborghini. Here's my mansion. Look at how great I am. Look at how cool I am. I manifested all this. You don't think I could afford a Lamborghini or all that? Of course I can. Do I care? I don't even care one bit. I don't. I had those things in a previous life. You know what I got? I got lawsuits. Because the minute people see that stuff, guess what you get? You get haterade, all right? I don't want any more haterade. I don't come from that place either. I'm not coming from the ego. It's okay to fail. I always say, look, if I bottomed out and I lost everything, I'll go work at a fast food restaurant. Doesn't matter to me. I'll go work at a grocery store. I don't care. I don't care because the only thing that cares about that is the ego and the 5 senses. And that's not me. And if I come from the ego and the 5 senses, then I have cut myself off from my prosperity. My prosperity does not come from the ego and the 5 senses. So that's my little 2-minute blurb. And once I've made that shift, that it's okay to fail, that I'm loved no matter what, I'm loved whether I'm rich or I'm poor, it doesn't matter. And because of that, I've been endowed with plenty. Because I'm trustworthy with a little, so I'm also trustworthy with a lot. And that's really how it works out. And every step of the way, yes, your faith will be tested. And you know that because you can look back at your life and you can see how that's always been the case. So that's my message for the day. I hope you guys got something out of it. So let's go look and see who's on the board here. We got Brian, we got Marshall, Sabrina's on, Marisol, Sylvia, Christine Diaz. Hey, Christine. Christine, type in the chat box. Tell me how you're doing. I saw something on Facebook the other day, and I wanted to connect with you. So tell me how you're doing. Maybe I can speak into that. Corey's here. Vancito, Sergio, Romika, Marshall, David, Randy. Katie Lee just joined. Hey, what'd you guys think about what I just said? I saw some laughing things on there. Like, what did you think about what I just said? Just write a little one or 2, 3 words or a sentence. How did you resonate with that? And let's talk about it. Let's see what you guys think. Finances seem to be an issue for a lot of people. Let me know what you think. And we'll get back into this. So good to hear your message, David says. Prayers today. Yep, we will do prayers today. If you want to go ahead and type it in, type in what you want a prayer for. And I'll do that right now. I'll speak on certain things. So let's go for that. I know that Craig wrote in. Craig wanted to find his path, which direction to take. So here's what I recommend on finding your path, Craig, is that you don't find your path finds you. That's really how it works out. Is if you go seeking your path, that means you're coming from a place of I don't know. And also you should remove that vocabulary from your life altogether. I talk to a lot of people and I hear them say, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Listen, if you say it, you create it. So you do know. That's the thing. If you're saying that in your vocabulary, Craig, I want you to drop that immediately. I want you to have somebody listen to you talk. And if you say, I don't know, even one time in your sentence about what you should do, I want you to drop those words from your life completely and immediately. Because as long as you say it, You have to live under the spell of that. That's why you went to school, to learn how to spell and to sentence, write, and all this stuff like that, because that's abracadabra. As I speak, it is created. So you do know, and I'll prove it to you that you do know. Omnipresence means there's only one present. There's only one God. God fills all space in the universe and left no extra space for anything other than itself. God knows all because God is omniscient. There's only one mind. It has complete knowing. It has complete comprehension of everything, including the life path that you're supposed to take. So it knows nothing of anything other than that. And so since it knows nothing of anything other than that, that means you cannot know anything other than knowing. And if you come from a place of not knowing, that means that you have either spoken it, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy, or it means that you are coming from a place of fear. And fear means that I'm afraid that I could be wrong. I'm afraid I could be wrong. In reality, if you follow your highest excitement in every moment and your fastest path to your joy in every moment, you can never be wrong. The universe is completely self-correcting. So as long as you're not breaking any law of morality, as in the 10 Commandments are all about honor, honoring God, honoring others, which is really all about honor in general. As long as you're not breaking honor, the honor code somewhere, you can never be wrong, ever. So that completely destroys the whole, I don't know which path to take. You take the next step of your highest excitement in every moment, living in the present, knowing that you never had to take thought for any of that to begin with. The whole thing will organize itself and fall right in your lap. And that's how it's supposed to be. That's synchronicity. That's flow. And that's what you do. So let's go ahead and look here. We have, Corey said she was laughing about the haterade. That's true. Haterade is the most commonly consumed thing on the internet. And it's everywhere. Vancito, good to have you here. Let's see. You want to connect to your highest self. All right. So Vancito, to connect to your highest self, let's take a look at how you disconnected from your highest self through the 6 degrees of separation through the 3 kingdoms, the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and the how. All those questions that you always ask whenever you are faced with a decision to make. So in reality, you don't have to take any of that into consideration to become one with your higher self. The easiest way as a technique to do that is to spend time in nature by yourself, quiet. And if you say, I don't have time to do that, I can't afford to do that, etc., well, then change your life so you can. If it's that big of a goal for you, then get rid of something that doesn't belong in your life, i.e. a distraction, because the only thing that causes people to fail are distractions. So take a look at your inventory of what you do on a given day and make a checklist of plus and minus. Take a look at your life and say plus over here as in this brings joy to my life, and then minus as in this is just something that is a complete distraction in my life. And look at it and take a look at the minuses and dump them off your list as best as you can. And then take that extra amount of time that you've just created and go spend time in nature, because the harmonic of nature will calibrate you back to knowing your higher self. This is what I do when I get downloads. I go out in nature, I spend time there, and I get out of that constant thinky chatterbox now to the point where I barely have any thoughts at all unless I choose them. And that's amazing to me. I don't have to plan for what I'm going to talk about, or I don't have to strategize what I'm going to do tomorrow. I never do any of that, ever, never. And yet I've been able to write books and to do businesses and to do all these things, put on seminars and workshops. I've been able to create things in a week that in my old life I couldn't create at all ever in years. Because when I come from knowing instead of thinky, I can just allow it to just happen. And that's the whole thing. Allow God to work through you by you recognizing that you don't even have to be there. It's not even about you. That's the whole point. All right. So yes, the word is powerful, Marshall. Love it. Great. Brian, I applied for a few jobs, confident I will land one soon. Going back to just a job type gig because I know faith will bridge the gap. A few things I'm unsure of. Trusting. Very good. Trust for now. Just trust for now and take the highest excitement as it makes itself available to you. All right. And there you go. So, Curlin, good to see you on here. I hear you and agree more. There you go, Craig. And Brenton's here. Let's see what else we got on the board. We have Vancito, great advice. Yes, I only speak on what I know. Like, you don't hear me talking about baseball or football stats or anything like that. I'm not that guy. I don't have that knowledge because I don't subscribe to it. But I can tell you how to make life transformations because that's what I do. And so this is, really what I wanted to speak on today was you don't have to take so much thought for your life. You don't have to try to be powerful. You already are. You are immortal. You don't have to convince anyone of your importance in the world. And the more you bring yourself to a level of humility, the more powerful you become. So that's why I don't try to flash around wealth in front of people, because I don't want to be perceived in a way that I'm not. And it's not about material things when you know that you're a spiritual being forever in the kingdom of heaven. You can appreciate and enjoy those things, but you know that they actually own you. So when you know from experience that those things actually own you, then you're very discriminative about how much you allow them to steal your time. Because that's what happens. When I had that big old mansion, that 8,000 square foot place, and all my cars I had to keep clean, and I had to have groundskeepers and a pool person, and I had one of the biggest aquariums in the state. I had to have them come in every week and check on all the water. I had to think about that stuff all the time. And then I looked at all the money getting siphoned off, and I thought, okay, is this really my fastest path to my joy? And I said, you know what? Nobody else really cares. And that's the whole point. So it wasn't my fastest path to my joy. So I reevaluated and accommodated the fastest path to my joy. And I found that simple is efficient. And when you simplify your life, you get rid of a lot of the thinking chatter in your life. So instead of being so busy pursuing everything that you think that you need to collect, which is actually has nothing to do with prosperity, that's vanity. But when you try to collect, what you're doing is just saying, I need more thinking. And a lot of people do that with businesses too. Instead of focusing on one single idea that they can accomplish with laser beam focus, they immediately go into distraction mode and they put like 10 things on the table, and then they get nothing accomplished. And that's a booby trap of the ego right there. That's one of the downfalls, and that's a pitfall that we can run into. Don't allow yourself to get distracted, because distraction is one of the ego traps to go ahead and put you right back in your box. And this is all about you coming out of the box. Because when you come out of your box, then you're in the expanded reality. So Debbie says, Romika says, boom. Thank you. And we got here, I love this. I wish I could stay and watch more. Sunday I'll be watching. Awesome. Thank you, Katie. I've just had a serious shift in consciousness. Good, Michelle, Corey. I mean, that's what it's all about. You see, one shift in consciousness can create a lifetime change for you. It takes one idea. One idea can transform your entire life. In fact, when I really got the idea that what you speak is what you end up prophesying and creating over your life, that changed everything for my finances. I only spoke the words, money flows freely and easily to me now. And I did that from a place probably far below the average person that's on the lower end of the totem scale. See, I was bankrupt already, and I was bedridden with Lyme disease. So when I had the audacity to speak what God is knowing about me, in other words, when I had the audacity to align with God and speak the truth over my life instead of the fear from the five senses, I was blessed for that faith. And within 90 days, I had a six-figure income. I followed the fastest path to my joy in every moment. That was another insight. You see, these little insights can be life-changing if you're willing to use them. That's all you have to do. You have to apply them. They don't apply themselves. So prosperity versus vanity. Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, vanity, what you see is not. Things are never as they first appear. The people I know that have the most wealth, I have a friend, he was the best man in my wedding, and he sold his company for $50 million recently. He drives like a truck that's about the same caliber of mine. I got like a $60,000 custom truck. He's got one about the same. He lives in a $400,000, $500,000 house. He dresses normal. We work out at the gym together. He's worth more than any of these guys that you see on the internet showing you their Lamborghini, like, buy my internet marketing course. He's worth more than all of them combined. And he doesn't have to try to prove to you that he's prosperous. In fact, I'll tell you why he's prosperous. In fact, I'm trying to get him to speak at the next workshop. He said he was going to do it at the last one, but something came up. He wasn't ready. He probably will speak in November. He's a true man of God. He's the most loving person you'll ever meet. He literally would give the shirt off his back for anyone in need. One time I had this Mercedes back years ago, and it unfortunately had rear wheel drive, and I was foolish enough to buy it in the wintertime in Wisconsin. So I was going up this hill, and I kept sliding back down the hill because it's not the right car to drive when there's ice on the ground. And I called him up. He drove about 45 minutes to come and get me, and then take me back to his house, take me to my house, and then take me back. And you see, that's the kind of guy he is. He always comes from a place of love and serving, and he's been rewarded immensely. Hold on one second. I'm getting a call. I'm going to decline it. All right. So that's the thing. It's never what you first, whatever appears to be one thing is usually not. So I just wanted you guys to see that. And yeah, that's really all I wanted to say. So I'm going to wrap this up. This has been long enough. And looks like the board is pretty much done. So thank you so much, everyone. We will reconnect on Sunday, and we'll do more focused, more prayer time, and we'll focus on specific issues. So bring those to the table, and we'll address them and look for that one insight. You'll need one insight to collapse a whole group of error in your life, and to revisit, your prosperity, etc., or your health. All right, thank you guys, and God bless, and I'll see you soon. Take care.